All right, welcome back to Quality Matters. I'm your hostess, Darci.
I'm Kyle.
Thanks for joining us again. We have another blog post from the Deming Institute. This one was written by Dennis Sargent.
Don't know him.
He's the president of Sargent Results Group.
Okay.
So this is about how Dennis got to hear Mike Duggan, the mayor of Detroit, speak in 2016. So I assume he's no longer the mayor of Detroit.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. That was 4 years. I don't know how long the terms last. But before he was the mayor of Detroit, he was the CEO of the Detroit Medical Center.
In today's global economy, quality matters. Benjamin Franklin once quipped, "The bitterness of poor quality remains long after the sweetness of low price is forgotten." Quality Matters is here to talk about all things quality. So whether you're looking to improve your business, getting ready for an audit, or dealing with failed inspections, tune in, check us out, then get back to doing work that matters.
The CEO of the Detroit Medical Center.
Interesting career change.
Again, I have lots highlighted. This is very interesting, very funny. We talk a lot about top-down leadership, and then I've heard people speak about bottom-up culture.
Yes.
And at first, I don't even think I've shared this with Kyle. You know, the two didn't make sense to me, but now we've done, enough studies that I understand. Leadership has to be from top down. Leaders have to really be buying into what's happening, and not doing it just to get a certification or whatever. But you want to include everyone from the bottom up.
Yep. Everyone has a critical role to play.
I got how it works now.
I mean, it really is like something as simple as a welder and a helper. If the helper brings the welder the wrong stick, the whole weld's bad. Doesn't matter how good he is. Yeah, everyone has to understand how critical it is.
Their job.
And you put that in the wrong application, that part's going to melt down and cause millions of dollars of damage and kill people. All
right, so let's go back to my lighthearted episode. So Mike Duggan, he's the CEO. He had been tasked with trying to solve a multi-million-dollar loss the year before.
That's a fun place to
start. So we've spent a number of time discussing how profit is a side positive impact of quality. Obviously, this is a negative thing. So he started dialoguing with the nursing staff. That's who he went to first. And he said, what can we do? We've had a big loss. What do you think we can do? And they said, well, patient discharge. Sometimes it takes 3 hours to get an ambulatory patient out of here. Ambulatory means healthy, up, walking, mobile, can walk out on their own 2 feet.
Okay, that's good, because I wasn't sure what that word meant.
I'm pretty sure that's what it means.
Sounds good. we'll say that's what it means.
But they had to be wheeled out in a wheelchair, even though they're ambulatory.
Well, I've had people do that to me after surgery. It's like they insist on, I can freaking walk. Let me walk out of here.
I just walked to get up and use the bathroom. I just walked to go change my clothes. I just walked to go get my baby out of the little incubator. But I can't walk out of here.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, they wheeled me out every time I had a baby.
Yeah.
So the nurses said it takes sometimes up to 3 hours to get a wheelchair to get the patients out of here. And Mike, the CEO, says, well, then who is it? And they said, well, it's the transporters. The nurse says the transporters.
So we go talk to the transport people.
Goes talk to the transport people. They said, we got bigger fish to fry. We're moving people from ER to surgery and surgery to recovery and then to their rooms. And we're dealing with sick people first. Don't you want us to help the sick people first?
Okay.
And so
Makes sense.
So Mike says, well, where can I help? Then, you got all this to do. Where can I help? And they said, well, it's the lack of operable wheelchairs.
Okay, so the transport people are slowed down because they don't have enough working wheelchairs. And then that slows down the whole process getting people out the front door.
Right. So they said a lot of them are always in for repairs. And he says, well, who's responsible for that? And the transporters say it's the wheelchair repair shop. Say so that 5 times fast.
No.
So it says he goes down to the wheelchair repair shop.
Okay.
And it notes it's the first time anyone there had seen the CEO.
Wow.
I don't know how long he's been the CEO.
Right.
Okay. And guess what they said?
Someone else's fault.
Not us. It's not us. It was purchasing.
Okay. So
because they can't get their parts to fix the wheelchairs.
It all makes sense, though.
So he goes to purchasing. Guess what purchasing says?
So when they give me the right requirements?
Not us.
Like yeah.
Not us.
Yeah.
They say it's the suppliers.
Oh, yeah.
The suppliers won't send the parts because accounting's not paying them in a timely manner.
I've run into that before, too.
So, goes to accounting. And guess what accounting says?
Someone else's problem.
They said, yeah, we're not paying the suppliers. He says, why not? Why are you holding up the payments? They said, the CEO told us to.
Full circle.
It says, when Mike inquired about who the culprit was so he could hold them personally responsible for this colossal waste of time, the accountant pointed out that he was acting at the request of the CEO.
Wow. Well, let's think about that. Like, if there are 3 hours there, right? So think about the nurses that are responsible for this person during that time. I mean, you've got hundreds of dollars of waste per incident. Plus, that's a bed that can't be filled.
I was about
and each
to
bed's
say.
a profit
and
center.
Somebody's waiting in recovery on a bed. You know, I think
mean,
about every time I've had a baby, and you know, of course, the last one it was delivery and recovery. It was all in the same room, but you know, just waiting on your room when you're done with surgery or whatever the case may be.
So you're dealing with cost plus a missed opportunity for profit because that bed's still full. And
I always think about it from my point of view, the patient or customer, like I'm getting charged more for being there for 3 more hours.
This is true.
So then he realized, wow, the buck stops with me.
Wow.
Like I'm the leader. What am I going to do about this?
That's fun.
So he gave, this is actually a 2-part blog. We're going to wrap it up into one. He gave better leadership direction to accounting. Then he started thinking more about the original problem and about how it's taking 3 hours to get ambulatory patients out.
Yeah.
Why are they waiting on a wheelchair?
Yep.
So he started asking why. Why? And a question was, why improve what should be eliminated?
Well, I'm going to throw something else in here real quick. Root cause analysis, one of these things that gets thrown around. And,
your buzzwords?
Yes. And it's a legitimate tool and it's a legitimate thing to do. And there's a number of ways to do it. But this, folks, this is root cause analysis.
Okay. So here he goes. And he's asking his team why. Why do we have to wheel out patients that are able to walk out on their own power? First answer he got was because it was federal regulations. They required it. He said, okay, give me a copy of the federal requirement. Days later, an answer came back, no, there's no federal requirement. It's state of Michigan. It's their requirement.
Yeah, there you go.
And Mike said, why? And he asked to see the chapter and verse. So find it for me. Again, answer came back, no state requirement either. Well, it was a requirement of the DMC, the Detroit Medical Center's insurance carrier. Insurance required.
Gotcha.
Which kind of makes sense.
It does.
So Mike says, why? Give me the coverage that says
show
that.
Me.
Guess what?
Not there.
No requirement. So Mike asked why. And now the answer was, why not stop doing this and see what the outcome is? So they put out a new practice that ambulatory patients could walk under their own power without wheelchairs.
You know, when I first started writing all of our safety procedures and whatnot, you know, they sell these stock procedures. You can download them online. They've got all these stock trainings. And the first thing I noticed is, my gosh, these things are complicated. There's so many rules in here. And I'm trying to think to myself, like, how the heck am I going to get Bubba to follow these rules? We literally had a guy named Bubba. And he was everything you'd think he was. And, like, how am I going to get Bubba to follow all these rules? And so I did something similar. I was like, well, what are the requirements? So we had 2 sets of requirements. You got, you know, Texas has a few regulations. And you got OSHA. And I still have the binder to keep it in my office. And so I printed out the federal regulations for forklifts, anything that could possibly attach to a forklift, any requirements around the forklift, printed them all. I went through, did like you did on your little blog post here, and I highlighted everything that might matter. And then what's amazing is you compare that against the standard practices that are out there. The standard practices that everyone believes are in compliance with the law are twice what needs done.
Yeah.
It's absolutely twice what needs done.
They're trying to CYA and nobody actually takes the time to read the procedures.
And I'm not saying that sometimes those extra restrictions are not valuable. We put our own extras in there that weren't required by law. But what's the minimum I have to do? And that's where you can improve from. You can't improve from someone else's assumptions.
Yeah. Yeah. So, again, I like this guy. I like leaders that, are willing to make changes and especially make changes within themselves and realize, crap, I'm the one that screwed this up. So he has, put into this new practice that they can walk out. If they can walk out, they can walk out. So it says when he got back to his office later, he heard a disturbance from the hall and joyfully discovered the nurses were cheering. They were celebrating the decision to stop doing something that had been embedded in the culture and built into policies that served no real purpose or requirements.
That's awesome.
In other words, they stopped trying to improve that which should be eliminated.
I love it.
And in doing so, removed a source of delay and unhappiness for customers and staff.
Same thing.
I love how our episodes are starting to connect.
Yeah.
The previous one, with Toyota and the rubber mallet. And in this one, he quotes Stephen Covey. And we actually use this quote, the way we see the problem is the problem.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
If we see a problem that can be solved, great, then let's solve it. If we see the problem, it's just a problem.
Yeah.
I know Kyle talks to our kids about this a lot. If they say, I can't do it, or I just, or I'll try to, then that sets yourself up for failure. It gives yourself permission. It's that tolerance that we talked about. You're giving yourself a tolerance to fail. You're giving yourself permission to fail. So you've got to view a problem as something to be solvable. And then there's another quote from Deming that I wanted to read. He said, "We're living in prison under the tyranny of the prevailing style of management, a style of interaction between people, between teams, between divisions, between competitors. We need to throw overboard our theories and practices of the present and build afresh."
I agree. It's the same thing Covey talks about with the paradigm shift. It sometimes really requires a complete brand new way of approaching a problem.
And sometimes it doesn't.
No, but you need to know that you need to have confidence what you're doing is correct. And sometimes it takes the same style of thinking to have that confidence, that assurance of what you're doing.
Yeah, it just took somebody taking the time to look up these regulations, because I assumed the same thing since they're wheeling me out every time. Now, after a day surgery, I can see because you've been under anesthesia and things like that. But, when I've had a baby, normally, not a C-section. C-section I can even understand. But when I've had a baby, no complications. I've been walking around the room, holding my baby, getting my clothes changed. Why do I have to wait on a wheelchair?
I remember with our oldest, and I remember thinking, how stupid is this? Because we had to stay at the Ronald McDonald House. Our oldest had to be in the NICU for a few days, had some problems. He's fine now.
He was fine when he got released.
Yeah. But, we stayed a couple nights at the Ronald McDonald House. And so, we're up on our own.
Yeah.
But when Darci, this is days later, we've been on our own.
For 5 days.
Yeah. They have to put her and the baby in a wheelchair to leave. And I'm like, this is stupid.
Yeah.
This is so stupid.
Yeah. And, to find out that there's no federal regulation. Now, maybe because they were in Michigan or Minnesota. So maybe in Texas there is. I don't know. Maybe it's an insurance carrier.
Maybe it's just another example.
I can see all those things being a possibility.
Yeah. And, if someone else, again, this is what I meant by this earlier. It's you can't improve off of someone else's assumption. Because if I, as somewhat of an expert in this area, told you, well, I think insurance requires this. the next person you tell is going to be, hey, Kyle said insurance said it requires it. That my doubt and my hesitation is going to get lost immediately.
It's like the game of telephone.
It is.
It
is.
Yeah.
So you can't build off someone else's assumptions. And that's why it's quality assurance. You have to be assured of the quality that you're providing. I mean,
and you have to be willing to make the changes and not carry the chip on your shoulder.
It's tough. It's tough and it's scary because even when you, I mean, again, I've done this with different safety things. We had abrasive blast houses, and we realized that some of what we were doing was overkill. And so rolling back those restrictions and rolling back those requirements that I had on my people for 2 years, it was nerve-wracking. It was scary, even though I knew we were overdoing some things. Rolling those restrictions back did not make me feel good.
Yeah.
I mean,
it makes you feel like, what if I missed something?
Yes.
What if I missed it somewhere?
Yes. And I think that just happens too often. And it seems like we wind up hitting the poles, right? Either we're doing too much for no good reason, or we're not doing enough. And I hate living those extremes.
Yeah. So that was, I really liked that, and that the CEO.
It
kind of sounds like it's the perfect example of top-down leadership.
Yeah, it is.
So, all right, thanks for listening, everybody.
Cool.
So when you listen to our podcast, however you listen to them, make sure you click subscribe so you'll be alerted when there's a new one out. If you need more information, you can go to qmcast.com and find lots of information about us there.